Throughout the Marvel Universe, there is one name that strikes fear to those who hear it: Doom. For all who have encountered Victor Von Doom, known as Dr. Doom to his countless foes, have learned to fear his might, genius, and unending desire to dominate everything he encounters. But behind his armored mask, who is Doom? And why is he so feared? To start, he's a scientific genius who has crafted an arsenal of unique weapons, including his mighty armor, which boasts energy blasts and force fields. He's invented his own time machine and commands an army of loyal robots, including his personal Doombots, which can impersonate him at his command. But Doom is also a master of the mystic arts, with power that rivals even Earth's Sorcerer Supreme, a position that Doom once claimed for himself. And he's often used his genius to combine magic and science, creating wonders and horrors that he alone could imagine. And that's not including the resources of Latveria, the Eastern European nation he rules with a literal iron fist. For Doom is practically worshipped by his people, who are willing to fight for their beloved king at a moment's notice. Doom's life is a stream of never-ending plots, schemes, and battles, as his ego and ambition have pitted him against many of Earth's mightiest heroes. To tell Doom's tale, we're going to explore the ongoing rivalries that have shaped Doom's life, making him into the armored despot he is today. Doom's greatest nemesis has to be his old college rival, Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four, who has battled Doom so many times that it pushed our Fantastic Four recap into feature-length territory. So, we wanted to focus on the numerous other battles that have shaped Doom's life. His lifelong battle against the demon Mephisto, as Doom sought to free his mother's soul from eternal damnation in Mephisto's realm. His longtime battles against heroes like Iron Man and Black Panther, which have led to wars, uneasy alliances, and even occasional bouts of heroism. And Doom's desire for unlimited power, which has driven him to become Emperor Doom, God Emperor Doom, and most recently, Sorcerer Supreme Doom, as he battled the entire world in the One World Under Doom storyline. This is Marvel Recap Dr. Doom, Part 1, with a special shout out to the official handbook of the Marvel Universe research team and the Marvel Studios story team for their help. Before we get to Doom's mightiest battles, we have to explore Doom's origins and the two great tragedies that shaped his life. Victor Von Doom was born in the Eastern European nation of Latveria. A member of the Romani clan known as the Zephyro, Doom was raised by his loving parents, Werner Von Doom and Cynthia Von Doom. While Werner was renowned for his healing skills, Cynthia was a student of magic, particularly the dark arts. Their mix of scientific and magical knowledge would go on to define Doom, who would become a master of both fields. The tribe faced persecution from their local nobleman Vladimir Fortunov, known as the Baron of Sabbat. While casting spells one evening, Cynthia was manipulated by a demon into attacking a village that had done great harm to her tribe. As she killed many soldiers, the demon took the life of every child in the village as payment for Cynthia's power. The remaining villagers chased Cynthia into the woods, where she was fatally wounded by a soldier's sword and died. Afterwards, the clan asked Werner and Doom to leave the tribe, but Doom refused, vowing that if the elders forced him out, he would use his mother's skills to exact vengeance on the camp in the future. They relented out of fear, and Werner and Doom stayed with the tribe, where Doom grew closer with his childhood friend, Valeria, the daughter of Werner's close friend, Boris Karela. That's when the Baron's wife became sick, causing him to seek out Werner for his medical aid. When Werner was unable to cure her, the Baron set his men upon the tribe, and Doom and his father were forced to flee into the hills. Trapped in a winter storm, Werner froze to death, with Doom still clutched in his arms. Afterwards, Doom claimed his parents' possessions, which included his father's remedies and a chest of his mother's mystical items. Doom studied all of them, quickly learning the ways of both science and magic. He used his scientific skills to con a nobleman into buying a fake violin, escaping the Baron's soldiers by using a freeze grenade of his own invention. And while he mastered magic very quickly, he used it mainly to try to reach his mother in the underworld, which he failed to do. Soon, Doom had gained a small measure of wealth and was seen as the leader of his clan. His long friendship with Valeria had by now developed into young love, but they began to grow apart as she became uncomfortable with his studies of the dark arts. Doom's invention soon gathered attention from America. The Dean of Science of New York State University offered him a scholarship, as did the U.S. military, who offered him access to top facilities if he would share his inventions with them. Doom accepted both offers, leaving Boris behind to lead the tribe as he flew off to America. Doom began developing technology for the military while attending State University. He soon encountered a young Reed Richards, who he immediately dismissed as his inferior, possibly because of his hat. Doom refused to share a room with Reed, and that seemingly insignificant housing decision would have a major impact on Doom's life. That roommate spot would go to future test pilot Ben Grimm, creating a lifelong friendship that would lead to many of Doom's defeats. Doom soon became obsessed with developing a technology to communicate with other dimensions, as he continued to try to find a way to contact his mother. He also kept up with his military studies, developing advanced robots and a prototype time machine, although he admitted that he was having a problem with his robots believing they were people. As Doom continued to work on his interdimensional chair, Reed spotted a flaw in his calculations, but Doom refused to listen. Activating the chair, Doom found himself in Mephisto's lair, learning that his mother's soul was in his torment. But Reed was right, and the chair exploded. Doom woke up in a military hospital, where he learned that he'd been expelled from the university as his lab assistant had been horribly wounded during the explosion. He soon learned that his face had also been left with a slight scar, only Doom now saw himself as hideous. He vowed that no other eyes must ever gaze upon his face again. He also blamed Richards for the explosion, convinced that he'd sabotaged the device to prove himself the superior mind. Bitter at the smug American military, Doom used his robots to escape the base, destroying all copies of his inventions as he left. In the 2006 series, The Books of Doom, we learned that Doom escaped to Prague, where he was plagued by nightmares of Mephisto and his mother's torment. He found himself being followed by Otto, a mysterious old man who tried to befriend Doom, who spurned his offers of help. Soon Valeria joined him, and they rekindled their romance. But the pair were attacked by KGB agents looking to capture Doom for his technical knowledge. And though Doom was able to defeat them, Otto, who was still following Doom, was fatally injured. As he died, Otto revealed that he was a member of a mystical order of monks in Tibet that would grant Doom access to forbidden knowledge. Forced to choose between Valeria and the chance to master the science of magic, he walked away from her, choosing to protect her from the danger caused by his ambitions. While traveling through Tibet, he stopped to visit the mystic known as the Aged Genghis, only to attack him when the Genghis described his scar as minor. The next morning, the Genghis was found by a more friendly visitor, Dr. Stephen Strange, who had just finished his magical studies with his master, the Ancient One, and would go on to become a powerful rival to Doom in years to come. Doom found the Order of Tibetan monks, who taught him more magical secrets and eventually made him their master. After using his technical skills to build a TV, Doom learned that Vladimir Fortunov had ascended to the throne of Latveria. He also learned that Reed Richards was being hailed as one of the world's premier scientific minds. Doom became convinced that Richards must have been working for the military to sabotage his work, fueling his hatred even further. As Doom studied, he continued to have nightmares about Mephisto and became convinced that the demon was filling his body with emotions to weaken him. So, he resolved he would not be like other men. He would have no emotion, no pain, and no warmth would affect him again. The monks constructed a suit of armor like none ever worn by mortal man. However, the mask took longer to finish, and an impatient Doom ordered the monks to place it on his face before it was cooled. The red-hot mask further scarred Doom's face, but he didn't care, as he already considered his face destroyed. Doom declared, "Never again will mortal eyes gaze upon Victor Von Doom, for now there is only Dr. Doom." Doom and one of the monks traveled back to Latveria, where he reconnected with Boris and the members of his tribe. As he marshaled his forces to attack the capital, Valeria returned. But she found him a changed man, even more driven than before. She tried to dissuade him from his plans, saying that he hadn't gained power, but just built better walls between himself and the world. But after smuggling Valeria out of the country for her safety, Doom attacked the military, leading a revolt of the people against Fortunov. When the king refused Doom's call for surrender, Doom led a march on the capital, personally flying into Fortunov's cathedral and strangling him. Doom took the throne, hailed as a liberator by the people of Latveria. Doom had finally avenged the tragedy of his parents' deaths. And yet, Doom knew that his mother's soul was still trapped in hell. He soon summoned Mephisto to bargain for her freedom, and the demon agreed to a yearly contest to decide the fate of the soul of Cynthia Von Doom. A battle that Doom would continue to fight for years to come. But in the meantime, Doom turned his attention back to Reed Richards, who had gone on to lead the team, the Fantastic Four. Doom soon battled them, using his time machine to send them back in time to steal Blackbeard's treasure chest, which contained Merlin's mystical gems. And while the Fantastic Four were able to return with the chest, it turned out to be empty. And Doom turned out to be a Doombot. The real Doom escaped, and Reed said they'd devote their lives to tracking him down. A promise that would prove to be entirely accurate, as Doom would spend decades battling the Fantastic Four, always trying to prove his superiority to Reed. But while Reed would prove to be Doom's longest-lasting foe, as seen in our Marvel Recap Fantastic Four video, Doom's ambitions were far too large to have only one nemesis. Who else would earn the wrath of Doom? While Dr. Doom believes he has no equal, something he's shouted out loud on multiple occasions, some of Earth's mightiest and most intelligent warriors have proven somewhat difficult for Doom to truly defeat. These mighty warriors have earned Doom's respect, although that hasn't stopped him from betraying them whenever it was necessary or amusing. One of these sparring partners is Namor, the mighty Submariner and the Prince of Atlantis, who has been both ally and enemy to the Fantastic Four since their earliest days. That has led to a complicated relationship with Doom, and over the years, the two have fought beside each other, fought against each other, betrayed each other, and even developed a grudging friendship, which makes sense as they share many similarities. They're both rulers of their respective kingdoms, have massive egos, and have been known to talk about themselves in the third person. We saw those similarities when they first met in 1962's The Fantastic Four, number 6. Doom approached Namor, presenting himself as an ally who shared Namor's ambition to achieve the punishment and total defeat of the Fantastic Four, and then of all mankind. Back at Namor's sweet undersea villa, Doom goaded him into seeking revenge against the surface world for the destruction of Atlantis, which Namor believed destroyed at the time. And while Namor refused to harm the Fantastic Four's Sue Storm, he agreed to aid Doom in defeating the rest of them. While Namor fought the Four at their Baxter Building headquarters, Doom shot the Baxter Building into space. And as Doom watched from his nearby spaceship, he revealed that Namor also stood in the way of Doom's ambition to rule the world. But now he was as helpless as the rest of them. But Doom didn't anticipate that Namor would join forces with his foes, using the Baxter Building's water tank to gather his strength and leap through space to Doom's spacecraft. As Namor broke his way in, Doom was forced to abandon ship, and he was left trapped on a nearby meteor. Namor used Doom's ship to return the Baxter Building to Earth. As for Doom, he would end up rescued by the alien race known as the Ovoids, who returned him to Earth. They also taught him their method for switching minds between bodies, which would go on to become an important weapon in Doom's arsenal. Doom and Namor's rematch would come in 1969's Submariner No. 20, with Namor being hunted through the streets of New York by the army and forced to seek sanctuary in the Latverian embassy. Doom greeted him, dismissing his betraying Namor as ancient history and undeserving of memory. Namor asked for water to restore his powers, but Doom first wanted to toast to an alliance to destroy the Fantastic Four. Namor refused, earning the wrath of Doom, who shut off all water to the embassy. Doom managed to capture Namor with heat rays, demanding that he pledge the armies of Atlantis to his service or die. Namor chose death, until he used the heat rays to set the embassy on fire. As Doom fled, a team of firefighters arrived to battle the blaze, and Namor used their water to restore his powers and flee. The next time they met, Namor proposed a new alliance, only to be rejected by Doom, who was convinced that one of them would inevitably betray the other. However, Doom had a solution: blackmail. For Namor was hiding a secret from the world, that much of Atlantis' population was lying comatose due to an accidental release of nerve gas from a sunken ship. Doom had heard rumors of the Atlantean disaster, and to avoid the world knowing that Atlantis was vulnerable, Namor agreed to help with Doom's plans. The pair ended up battling the Atlantean warlord Attuma, the Fantastic Four, and Iron Man. But the tables were turned when the Red Skull invaded Latveria, and Doom was shrunk to the size of a doll. Namor agreed to help Doom, only if he would help wake his people, and offer Doom accepted. With Namor's aid, Doom fought the Red Skull in space, destroying his space bike before leaving him stranded on the moon. Namor returned to Atlantis, which had been taken over by the Atlantean warlord Krang. While Namor took on Krang's army, Doom kept his word by sneaking in to wake Namor's people. As Namor regained his throne, Doom realized that while he had thought they were similar monarchs, Doom's power was derived from strength, while Namor's power stemmed from his people's love for him. And while that was not a strength Doom could understand, he could not deny its power. Through their time together, Doom and Namor had reached a level of mutual respect and friendship, a rare thing for both monarchs. They would both work together in the supervillain team, the Cabal. Although true to their origins, they would again have a brief falling out after Namor left to form his own Cabal, as Doom was insulted that Namor hadn't asked him to begin with. Or, as Doom put it, Doom is no man's second choice. T'Challa, the warrior known as the Black Panther, has battled Doom throughout the years, both as a warrior and as the king of the African nation of Wakanda. A scientific genius with mystical powers bestowed on him by a heart-shaped herb, T'Challa chose to use his intellect and abilities for the good of the Wakandan people and the world at large. That philosophy, the opposite of Doom's ambitions, has pitted the two sovereigns against each other and even brought their nations into war. The differences between the two were evident when they first met, not long after the nation revealed its scientific genius to the rest of the world. T'Challa returned from a trip abroad to find Doom on his throne, requesting an audience. T'Challa responded by blowing up the throne, only to discover that it was a Doom bot. T'Challa traveled to Latveria, where the real Doom suggested an alliance. But he was also curious. Why had T'Challa's ancestors never used their advanced technology to shape the planet's destiny? T'Challa responded that as mighty as the Wakandans are, they wouldn't have the power to reorder the entire world alone. And they had no desire to be an empire. T'Challa wanted Wakanda to help better the world, not conquer it. However, Doom held that minds such as theirs need not be fettered by the mewling moralities of lesser men. While the two monarchs parted ways without coming to blows, their opposing philosophies would make a future battle inevitable. That first shot came in 1971's Astonishing Tales #6, where Doom's obsession with vibranium, the mystical metal that was the source of Wakanda's advanced technology, spurred him to conquer the nation. His plan? To use the vibranium to build an army of rockets superior to any on Earth. He tunneled through the Earth until he was underneath Wakanda. However, a nearby resident noticed the vibrations and contacted Black Panther, who was in New York working with the Avengers. The king hurried back, only to discover that Doom had tunneled into a nearby volcano. There, Doom was able to goad T'Challa into a fistfight, only to blast him when his guard was down. Surprisingly, Doom found himself touched by T'Challa's nobility. And yet, who could compare with Doom, last of the true monarchs? It was his destiny to rule and conquer, to struggle till the very world was Doom's. Doom warned T'Challa not to try anything rash, for though he was inclined to treat him with the respect due to a fellow ruler, he was not greatly inclined. But for the Black Panther, defeat comes only in death. The Black Panther soon freed himself as Doom tunneled through the earth in search of more vibranium, even as it threatened to destroy his tunneling machine. T'Challa gave Doom an ultimatum. If Doom didn't halt his tunneler, he would send a stun blast into his country's vibranium, an act which would destroy all of Wakanda. Doom questioned whether the vibranium was valuable enough for T'Challa to threaten his people, but T'Challa argued that he knew that this wouldn't end with the theft of the vibranium. Doom would also enslave T'Challa's people to make sure the world didn't know of Doom's crimes, and T'Challa would never accept that. Doom relented, abandoning the vibranium and T'Challa, who was left unsure if he would have actually destroyed his country. As Doom left, he thought about how any one of his weapons could have disarmed T'Challa, but what would have been the point? He would have been useless as a pawn, but as an ally, that remained to be seen. But despite Doom's plans to convert T'Challa into an ally, Doom's desire for vibranium would eventually pit their two nations against each other in the conflict known as the Doom War. It all started when T'Challa turned down an offer from Namor to join the villainous group known as the Cabal. As T'Challa left to return to his country, he found himself confronted by another Cabal member, Doom. T'Challa and his bodyguards, the Dora Milaje, fought through Doom's forces to escape, as Doom promised to raise his beloved Wakanda and wipe his legacy from the minds of its people. To save one of his bodyguards, T'Challa threw himself in front of Doom's energy blasts, receiving massive wounds in the process. T'Challa was only able to escape after another of his bodyguards blew herself up to take out Doom, who emerged unscathed. Soon, T'Challa's ship crashed in Wakanda, where he was found by his queen, Ororo Monroe, aka Storm. While the advanced healing technology of Wakanda was able to save T'Challa, he was in no shape to continue as Black Panther. so his sister Shuri took on the mantle in his place. Meanwhile, Doom worked with the Desturi, a group of Wakanda separatists determined to destabilize the country. His plan? To distract Shuri and T'Challa through a civil war, which would allow him to finally steal Wakanda's vibranium. The plan worked. While Shuri, the Fantastic Four, and Namor battled a team of supervillains assembled by Doom, the Desturi seized control of Wakanda. Queen Aurora was arrested, and the rest of the royal family was forced to flee the capital, as Doom teleported to the capital to personally seize Wakanda's vibranium reserves. Doom struggled to unlock the vibranium vault, which was protected by a mystical barrier that would only open to someone with pure intentions. As Shuri returned to Wakanda, now joined by the Fantastic Four and the X-Men, Doom held Aurora hostage, demanding that T'Challa release the vibranium to him. T'Challa refused, but Doom let her go anyway. That's when T'Challa discovered that Doom had already raided the vault and plundered Wakanda's vibranium reserves. We soon learned that when Doom challenged the mystical lock, it transported him to the ancestral plane, where he was judged by the Panther god, Bast. Doom revealed that he was pursuing the vibranium because he'd been receiving visions of the end of the world. The only vision where it survived was a world that he dominated, which he called Doom World. Bast judged him as being truthful, allowing Doom to transport the vibranium back to Latveria. T'Challa sent the assembled heroes to Latveria, where they were forced to battle Doom's army of Doombots. Unable to outthink Doom's genius, T'Challa was forced to consider a crazy plan. That plan? To hire the insane mercenary Deadpool to take down Doom. While Deadpool couldn't enter Doom's lab, T'Challa soon figured a way to use shadow physics to teleport Deadpool through the vibranium to Doom. Doom was able to use his sorcery to charge the vibranium, drastically increasing his armor's power. T'Challa tried to convince Doom to stand down, arguing that they could find another way to avert the future he'd seen. But Doom refused, accusing T'Challa of squandering Wakanda's vibranium while also being too dependent on it. T'Challa agreed and used his shadow physics to deactivate all vibranium on Earth, rendering it useless. Doom argued that T'Challa had destroyed his own people, but Shuri asserted that he'd saved them. Shuri ended the war, warning Doom that if he ever set foot on Wakandan soil, she'd kill him. And with that, T'Challa and Shuri returned to Wakanda, where they began to rebuild their shattered country using the one resource that Doom didn't have: friends. Can Doom prevail against Mephisto, the X-Men, and the Avengers? Find out in Part 2.